I recently put out a video titled The 6 Art Supplies I Didn't Actually Need to Buy, and so I thought it would be fun to tackle the flip side of that. I'll be sharing my top 6 art supplies I'm glad I purchased, and I'm challenging myself to use all 6 of these wonderful art supplies in today's project. Number 1 on the list, Winsor Newton Cotman Watercolor Paints. I'm going to start off by saying that these paints are student grade, so if you already have a palette of professional grade watercolors, then you probably won't have any need for these. If you're new to watercolor, however, or thinking of getting started, I would highly recommend these. I purchased this set nearly 2 years ago, and looking over my paint tubes right now, I can see that I'm only super low on 2 of those colors, so they've lasted a long time. The cost was under $25. It's a set of 20 tube paints, so that's right around $1 per tube. I've paid $10 for a single tube of professional watercolor paint, so I'd say $1 is a pretty good deal. For the first 6 months to a year that I started painting, I used these paints almost exclusively. And now, the majority of my main working palette is still comprised of mainly Winsor & Newton Cotman paints, although I have added a handful of Daniel Smith professional grade paints as well. Number 2, Fumui Miniature Brush Set. And I'm not totally sure if I pronounced that right, but this is the set that I have. The set was just over $10, and I know they aren't especially fancy, but they work great for small paintings and adding details. I mainly paint mini landscapes, so these brushes have been perfect for my needs. I like the variety of this set. Now, most of them are detailed rounds in different sizes, but we also have 2 of the angled brushes and a flat. The tips have stayed intact surprisingly well considering how often I use them. Of all the brushes, there are really only 2 of them that are starting to separate and fray a little bit. The others look great. And when it comes time to replace my brushes, I'll likely buy this same set again. Number 3, Soft Pastel Pencils. After doing some research on the most popular and well-liked brands, I decided on Stabilo Carb Othello. They have sets ranging from 12 to 60 pencils, and I went with the 48, mainly because I was really impressed with all of the different shades that I can see being used for skin tones. And I've been trying to get better at portraits, so that really appealed to me. As far as cost goes, these were not as economical as my first 2 items on the list. I believe I paid around $60. Not exactly inexpensive, but I have been so happy with these pencils so far, and I'm really glad that I bought them. They blend well, and the colors are fabulous. If I am working on a fairly large project though, I do like to wear a mask. Just a cheap cloth face mask will work fine. I'm unfortunately very sensitive to smells, dust, and pretty much everything else, so it's probably not necessary for the average human, but I basically belong in a bubble with all my sensitivities, so that's just what I do. Moving on to number 4, Micron Fineliners. A pack of these normally run about $15. I started out with a variety pack so I could test the different nib sizes. And while I do like having different sizes available, I use the very fine 005 far more than any of the others. So I did wind up buying a second pack of only the extra fine. I hate running out of ink in the middle of a project, so it was worth it for me to have some extras. They are waterproof, so they work well with watercolors, and you don't have to worry about the ink running. They're also great for detailed ink drawings, and I have no doubt that I'll be buying more of these again in the future. Number 5 is likely to come as a surprise. The 5th art supply on my list of best purchases is Mr. Pen Mechanical Pencil Set. I know, most people who want to start taking art more seriously probably don't use mechanical pencils, but I'm telling you, these babies are pretty nice. For under $10, the package included 5 mechanical pencils with different lead options, mostly HB, 1, 2B, as well as a bunch of refills for both the lead and the erasers. The eraser just hides underneath this little metal tip here, and I have to say the grips are really comfortable, which is so important during a long drawing session. And the lead, or graphite rather, smudges and blends with a Q-tip, making shading super easy and so satisfying. I absolutely love these little erasers. Thanks to their size and shape, they make it so easy to erase or clean up small sections. You know how frustrating it is when you want to erase just a teeny tiny mark, but your eraser decides to take a large chunk out with it? Well, look at how simple it is just to remove what you want and nothing else. I also love using them for highlights. Number 6, last on my list, mixed media sketchbooks. The last supply is a bit more vague than the others because I don't necessarily have a favorite brand, but I do have some specifics that I look for. First is size. This one is 5.5 by 8.5 inches. It's large enough to do quite a bit with it, but not so large that you can't haul it around with you. I prefer a spiral binding so I don't have to hold or clip anything in place. I also look for paper around 110 pounds, so it's thick enough for pens, my markers won't bleed through, and I can just add a splash of watercolor to my pictures without the paper falling apart. Although I don't really recommend doing a full page of wet on wet because you will probably get a lot of buckling and warping. Most mixed media sketchbooks tend to have paper with a fairly smooth surface, maybe ever so slightly textured, and this is great because I know I can switch back and forth between almost any medium without worrying about tearing up my markers or losing the detail in a pencil sketch. I do love a good textured paper for watercolor painting, but for a sketchbook, I'll almost always choose the smooth or lighter textured options. I've had a few heavily textured sketchbooks in the past, and I just didn't love them. When I do find a sketchbook that meets my criteria for a good price, I'll usually grab 2 or 3 to stock up. I would actually say that this last item is maybe the most important item on my list, because having a place to play and experiment with your artwork is essential, without any pressure or feeling like you have to complete a piece or that it needs to be good. This sketchbook is full of terrible messes, half-finished pieces, and some things that I'm actually proud of sprinkled in. Now let's take a look at today's finished drawing. If you haven't watched the video of my 6 art supplies that I did not need to buy, I will link it here. Okay, so that covers it. My top 6 favorite art supply purchases, the items that I'm glad I bought and would not hesitate to buy again. I hope that you found this helpful. Links for my favorite supplies will be found in the description. And as always, thank you so much for watching.